Welcome back, brothers and sisters. I am Braden, the guy with the mullet all of a sudden next to me. His name is Tim, and this is The Second Legacy, and thank you so much for stopping by. My brothers and sisters, we have something so delicious. The Thanksgiving leftovers. We have got courts striking down gun control laws across the world that is making gun controllers go insane. We've got record gun ownership, and then we have a goofy gun grabber segment at the end, which is going to make you smile ear to ear and make your heart happy. And I can't wait to hear what you guys think in the comments below. Of course, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. And with that, mullet man, how are you doing? I like the hair.
Doing great. Yeah, I decided to grow the hair out last night, and
that's good.
Propecia does amazing things. Look at this. I mean, overnight.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
it really upped your class level. That's what I'm thinking.
Heck
I
yeah,
think
man.
You went from like a low 3 to at least a 5.
Oh, thank you.
At least.
Yeah. Well,
nailed it.
I wanted to step back in time for my look, so I went back to the 1980s. I think I pulled it off.
My look.
Yeah.
The Second Legacy, the only political analysis gun channel that has looks.
A look.
Well. Oh, the look. And it changes frequently, by the way. So you guys hang around because he has some great props he throws in here. But Tim's fashion is not why we came here, Tim. You know that.
Oh, I know.
Talk about you in third person.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing.
Yes. Mac
we're
likes
going to dive into New York Times.
Yeah, I always refer to myself in third person. Yeah.
You do. You got to. Well, we're gonna dive into the New York Times. So hold on to your hair, because this is going to be amazing. Remember the number 450, Tim. Let's dive in. Oh, hold on, Tim. We didn't check if Dr. Button Pusher was alive and well. How you doing?
If it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway.
Okay. All right. Good.
Biden's on top of his game today. Yeah.
Biden's good. Biden's good. Well, let's dive into the New York Times, Tim. Let's hit this. We got everybody here. We're feeling good. Let's go to number 1, Doctor. Turns out, Tim, that this broke over Thanksgiving. The courts, they've stricken down gun control measures in 2 states. Now, of course, they're talking about Maryland and Oregon, which we covered a lot, right? They covered Measure 114. We covered the Fourth Circuit. I think, by the way, I'd like to just throw that out there. But it turns out the New York Times is onto us, Tim. They're onto us.
Yeah.
Something is awry, because I don't know what happened, but the Bruen decision has really gotten like caused an itch where they just can't quite scratch. Check out number 2. This is interesting the way this features in. In the wake of the landmark U.S. Supreme Court decision last year that significantly limits what the government can do to restrict guns. That's a change we're going to talk about right there in a second. States led by Democrats have scrambled to circumvent or test limits of ruling. A few have approved new gun restrictions, and Oregon did the ballot initiative. But this week, they suffered a pair of setbacks. Now, before we dive into the details here, Tim, did anything stand out to you in that first paragraph? Because for me, I've got 2 things that really stood out, because this is coming from the New York Times, of all places. No friend to gun rights.
Yeah.
No friend
the entire first paragraph stands out. I mean,
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair.
They're, what an amazing statement. They are shifting gears, it would seem, huh?
100%. I personally like the honest rhetoric of scrambling to circumvent the ruling.
They admit what they're doing. I mean, it's something we've been saying all along, right? They're constantly trying. They can't win legislatively, so they got to try everything else. So they try it through the courts. They try it through passing state laws. They try it through ballot initiatives. They try it through anything they possibly can, knowing full well that the Supreme Court's going to take a look at what they've done and go, no. And so we have some theories on that as well. Like they're just throwing everything at the wall, hoping something sticks, and that's their only strategy at this point. Is just desperation.
Yeah.
Just overwhelm the courts with all these decisions and all these, things that they do at the state level, and maybe they can get somewhere. I mean, it's a heck of a strategy, but I don't think it's going to play out the way they think. I think they're probably just going to aggravate.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton.
Yeah, right.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out. No, exactly. So that's the first thing that stands out. It's kind of broad. Like, wow, you guys are being bold with this, using actual terms like circumvent Supreme Court rulings. But you know something else? This is a little more subtle that really caught my attention when I first read this. Listen to this. This is interesting. It's a change in tone, because whenever there's a change in tone, there's a reason. Last year, the Supreme Court that significantly limits what the government can do to restrict guns. You know what's different about that, Tim? Prior to this instance, they've always said the Bruen decision dramatically expanded gun rights.
Right.
And we always were quick to say, no. It didn't expand gun rights.
Right.
It curtailed gun control.
Right.
That's the verbatim response that we had. But wait, all of a sudden, the New York Times is saying, now it's limiting what the government can do to restrict guns.
Yeah.
Why would they change vernacular like that?
Yeah, complete opposite
Something
side
that
of
was
the coin.
so hive-minded.
Yeah. That is interesting.
It's isn't it weird? Because whenever these shifts happen, and it happens subtly, but it always happens and will carry forward. This happened last time they started talking about gun violence as an epidemic in the United States,
Right.
and that stuck for a few years.
Yeah.
They always change the narrative on you, and they go, "Oh, whoa, hold on, wait a minute, what was that?" It's subtle. Then all of a sudden, everyone picks it up. I
Right.
just thought that was very interesting.
Well, in the previous
Very,
attempts
very
to do the same thing, we've always shredded them. And so eventually we wear them
true.
down,
That's
right?
true.
So every time they make a stupid statement, we, you and I, and of course, then the entirety of social media shreds them and just completely mocks them. And eventually they get tired of it until they find a new talking point like this one. And then they go forth with it and they'll run with it for a while. And then they'll get beat up with that one that one might get them beat up by their own side. I mean, who knows?
It's true.
But
that's true. Well, maybe I don't know, Tim, because after all, we're just gun guys on the internet. I'm sure it has nothing to do with this next one. Number 3, Doctor. The aftermath of Bruin has also prompted a surge in lawsuits challenging various gun laws. According to Giffords, a gun control group, subtle, with more than 450 decisions trying to interpret the case. Now, when you read it like that, you kind of go, oh, wait a minute, hold on. What can the government do to restrict guns? And then they talk about 450 decisions not restricting guns. It's almost like that was a complete setup to say, look what the crazy gun right people are doing.
Right.
They've got 450 things not restricting guns. All of a sudden, it's away from expanding gun rights because there are no cases of 450 lawsuits expanding gun rights. That doesn't exist. So all of a sudden it's, we got to get the narratives to match here, because if restrictions and then 450, and then Giffords comes out and flat out says, guys, we're kind of in trouble.
They are in trouble.
450?
Yeah. I mean, they're starting to realize the hole they're digging for themselves. And this is something we've pointed out many times. These clowns, with their desperate measures that they're employing right now, and they're just throwing everything at the wall, they're going to upset the courts, but they're also going to get a bunch of decisions. They're going to put them in a box. And so it's going to be very tough to get out of that box once they put themselves into it. And they're putting themselves into it at a dizzying pace, which is a great thing.
100%.
Oh,
it's fantastic.
Never interrupt
it's
your enemy
annoying
when they're making a mistake, and that's...
It is annoying as you can possibly imagine, watching them do all this stuff with the ATF, watching them do all these boyfriend loopholes, all these safer Senate bipartisan BS. It's annoying.
Yeah.
But man, are they really shutting a lot of doors on themselves. And like you said, when they're destroying themselves, let them do it.
Yep.
And that I thought that part was interesting, Tim. I hope it passes the interest test of the mullet man today.
Oh, it does. Most definitely.
Okay, good,
Yes,
good. Well, this next part, I think this next part is also intriguing. This is like the soup du jour of the same article. So if we go into 4, just tell me if something sounds weird here. Preliminary research indicates that judges appointed by Republicans are far more likely to strike down gun regulation laws after Bruin, said one of the paper's authors, Eric Rubin, a law professor at Southern Methodist University. Isn't that weird? Such was the case this week with Maryland, as the federal appellate court split 2-1 with an appointee of former President Donald J. Trump writing the majority opinion. Oh,
I know.
Orange man bad. Republicans do it. And you know what? If we didn't have these pesky Republicans following the actual law, we would have common sense gun regulations, Tim.
That's what they do.
I am the chosen one. Somebody had to do it.
Wow, Doctor.
Thanks, Doc.
That was so timely.
Wow. I don't even know what to say about this one. They're saying that the Republicans are the whole reason why we are preserving our rights, and that's a bad thing. How?
Yep. And that's a bad thing. That's a bad thing. Well,
so the Republicans are saying the Republicans are just pro-gun and they're being politically motivated. No, I think the opposite is true. The Republicans are pro-Constitution in many cases. There are some that aren't. They're the Mitt Romneys of the world and the McNasties and stuff. God rest his soul. But it's so infuriating to see them say that, because what they're saying basically is we have one group of Republicans that instead of saying they abide by the Constitution, no, they're just pro-gun and they're being political hacks.
Exactly.
Where the Democrats are what then? Or what then?
Tim. Are you reading the notes again?
No,
because that's so. We're going to the next one. I love when you do this, dude. I love when you do this, because that is exactly where we're going. All right, so keep in mind, you just nailed it. Republicans are bad. They're fulfilling the Constitution, and they are from Donald J. Trump. And all the bad things, the Republicans are more likely to do this, and therefore they're bad. Well, let's go to number 5, wrap up this entire article. God, you are so prescient. All right. While mass shootings have a significant impact on the psyche of America, they actually rank very low in frequency and are sensationalized by the media. This is Judge Rasho in Oregon, because we switched to Oregon.
Mhm.
And here's the payoff. In a statement, Oregon's Attorney General Ellen Rosenblum, a Democrat, pledged to file an appeal and express confidence that the state would win. The case could ultimately be heard by a state Supreme Court whose 7 members have all been appointed by a Democratic governor.
Oh, gee, look, we have an ace up our sleeve. We have a bunch of anti-constitutionalists just waiting in the corner to shred your rights.
Dude, it's so bad.
Wow.
It's so bad. In one sentence, they're like, well, Republicans, they are tending to really break down these gun rulings.
They're literally talking about our rights in terms of Republican and Democrat.
Yes, 100%.
I mean,
but don't worry, because Oregon has Democrats.
Yeah.
Nobody?
Yeah. We have a whole bunch of people on the bench over here just waiting to shred your rights. You know, they're all wearing their little red hammer and sickle shirts. They're ready to go.
They're good. We're good. We're fine. It's bad when Republicans do it, but it's okay when Democrats do it because, after all, Democrats are on the right side of history, according to the New York Times.
But look at
it's laughable.
Look at their arguments just historically. Of course, that's how they think. What happens when the Supreme Court has a 1-seat majority for Republicans that were appointed, or justices that were appointed by Republicans? It's unbalanced.
It's out of balance.
It's only balanced, not at 50-50, folks, because it can't be.
Yeah, no.
Right? Because it's not a number of justices. But it's only balanced when they have a majority.
Exactly. We should just put more people on the court, and it's more imbalanced.
Right. And that's how they view the world. Right?
Yeah.
It's just.
That's exactly right.
These.
Yeah, maybe they should be wearing the mullet. Maybe they should be wearing the mullet for this.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe their class has gone up a little.
I guess the bigger question is how do we combat this stupidity? You know, it's man, who could read this and have any level of reading comprehension, intelligence, any of the above, and not look at this and go, boy, that doesn't sound right. You know what I mean?
You know what?
Regardless of political affiliation.
I do know what you mean. In fact, Dr. Button Pusher, can I get a Gavin Newsom on that one?
That's true, because it's true.
And once again, Tim, you have proven your ability to psychically read the future, because what are we going to do about it? I swear you're on it today. Let's jump into number 6. I think this one's going to make you smile. What are we going to do about it? This is what I say, sir. Record percentage says they own, or someone in a household owns, a gun. Record from right before Thanksgiving. Well, what's the record, you say? I'm glad you asked, Tim. Let's go to 7. More than half of American voters, a record high number, say they or someone in their household owns a gun. According to the survey, which has polled voters since 1999 about household gun ownership, 52% of respondents this year said they or someone in their home owns a gun. Good day, sir.
Good day, sir.
And let me tell you something about that statistic. It's not accurate. You know why? Because if some random Joe called me on the phone like, hey, do you got any guns in the house? You know what my response would be? I don't know what you're talking about. Lose my number. You know what I mean?
No.
Yeah, I would just outright lie to him. Like, why would you? So that 52% is likely not the
Way
full
lower.
picture. Yeah. That's
lower.
lower than what the actual number. It's no different
100%.
than when everybody was convinced Trump was going to lose in 2016 because they were polling everybody. He was polling behind. And when he finally people went to the ballots, they voted for him. Were the polls so far off? Because nobody wanted to admit they were going to vote for him.
Exactly.
And the same thing, like
the secret Trump voter, I think they called that.
Well, I've taken to the rare occasion I get the political phone calls, like asking me where I stand on political issues. It used to be I would just hang up on them. Now I mess with them because I want to skew the results because it's a joke. The polls are a joke. And so we'll cite polls and stuff like that, like we have here, but that doesn't mean we put a whole lot of stock in them, right?
Right. No, I agree.
And here I'm just pointing out the fact that it's probably off in our favor. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
In our favor. Yeah. Right. No, you're absolutely right. In fact, funny story about pollsters when they start texting you for Biden. One wouldn't leave me alone during the 2020 election. So finally, I just leaned into it and I started saying how bad Biden was and I started stating facts. Oh, they removed me from the list then.
Yeah, right.
I'll tell you that. They're like,
ooh, really quick and stuff.
Send them some memes. Not worth it.
Yeah.
I sent him some memes. Exactly. It was about that time when Biden was saying that he likes when little kids roll up and down his leg and touch the hairs on his leg.
Oh, man, that was a special one.
That was a great time in life.
Doc,
but you know
Doc
what?
needs that one on the soundboard. Anyway.
Oh, God, we do. We really do need that one. I love when little kids touch my leg. Joe.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Joe, goodness. Stop talking, Joe. It's okay. It's okay because that's one of our gifts in the world
Yes.
is along with the incredible inflation, the wars breaking out all over the world, supply interruptions, we get some amazing gaffes. It's almost better than the tweets, Tim. Almost better,
Almost
than,
better
the
than the tweets.
Almost. Well, we got a little bit of a squirrel moment there, but I think it was worth it. I think it was worth it for this
It was
one.
fun.
Listen to this quote. It was a good time. It was a good time. So listen to this right here, talking about the increases. So from 2013 to 2023, we've had a 10-point increase in percentage of people who say they own a gun, right? Again, to your point, that's not the correct number, but the one that's published is still damning to Democrats and gun controllers, right? Quote, in the last 10 years, we've grown 10 points in gun ownership. That's a very stunning number, Micah Roberts of Public Opinion Strategies, who conducted the poll with Hart Research, told NBC News. Quote, by and large, things don't change that dramatically, that quickly when it comes to something as fundamental as whether you can own a gun. It's almost like Americans were like, yeah, no.
It's almost like America saying, hey, stop it. You know, they're not on board with this gun control nonsense. They just aren't. And we saw that as an FFL during, the 2020 craziness, all the way up anywhere from the riots to C-19 to all the other stuff that was going on. We saw so many people after the Pulse nightclub tragedy. We saw tons of people from a market we very rarely see in the gun store coming in to buy guns.
Exactly.
And
right.
we took great pride in educating them and helping them pick the right defensive tools, because the Second Amendment literally is for everybody. And people
Every
are
single person.
realizing that the government is not going to protect you. They have no legal obligation to protect you according to the Supreme Court. You
Nor can
are
they.
responsible for your own safety. So
Yeah.
do you want to sit cowering in a corner with somebody smashing through your front door, dialing 911, waiting 20 minutes for the cops to show up? Or do you want to deal with the problem at the front door? That's the ultimate question.
I completely agree.
Right?
I completely agree. And it's the hardest part sometimes. You're not going to get the far left, the gun control, like the committed gun control leftists. You're not going to get them. You're just not. But honest to goodness, if you're talking to anybody with a family or anybody with any base level of ownership or buy-in to what their community is about, you're not going to have people saying like, yeah, of course. No, I'm going to let the police do it over here. The government will take care of me. We're fine. There is no crime. It's a figment of your imagination. Those weren't riots, like Tim said. Those were mostly peaceful protests with a lot of bonfires. I mean, where you guys are, there's no one is buying that,
Nope.
man. No one. In fact,
Nobody is.
you know what? Dr. Button Pusher, this is not a Venn diagram, but it is a graph. What do you think Kamala would say about this?
I love Venn diagrams. Okay.
Well, she can't have them. Number 9. This is a bar graph. So, ha! All right. Right here, Tim. This is the part that I really want to reinforce. And then we're going to get to your goofy gun grabbers. It is delicious. As you can see, from 04 to 13 to 19 to 23, there's dramatic ownership increases in every self-identified political party. Democrats, up. Independents, up. Republicans, up. Everyone is reading the tea leaves and looking around and going, yeah, nah, this ain't working out right now.
Yep.
People legitimately, the last time we saw this was in the 90s.
Look, our government is failing. And I hate saying that. But we have, we've racked up so much debt that there's no way we can continue. We just cannot continue on the path that we're on. But there's nobody changing that. They just keep printing money like we can, and it's not going to affect us. Like our economy can't collapse, like we're too big to fail. We aren't, but people are realizing this. They're watching outrageous inflation. They're looking at the prices of gas and food going through the roof. We already came through the C-19 unrest where people were rioting in the streets and doing all sorts of craziness. And people are starting to realize, oh my gosh, I really am responsible for my own safety here. And so all those gun control notions they may have once had, those fence sitters, the people in the middle that were undecided, are now making a decision. And they're siding with
100%.
us because they're realizing the promise of safety from the government is a flat out lie. It always has been. The government cannot provide you with safety. It simply cannot. And
it's just from like logistics, it can't.
No, it just can't unless they want to put a police officer in every single home, which I wouldn't want a stranger in my home. I'll just take care of my home myself. Thank you very much.
There's an amendment like that about that or something.
Yeah, I think there is. There's something about, quartering of troops or something like that. I'm sure that's
something like that.
I'm sure that's out there.
I don't know, but you know what? It's just an amendment. It's just a suggestion. It's no big deal.
It's from a couple hundred years ago with guys that wore white powdered wigs. It's outdated. We need
They didn't have
the quarter troops.
washing machines then, so they didn't understand how easy it was now.
Right.
That's exactly what it is.
Yep.
Well, Tim, I'm gonna be real with you. I think that was a very successful point, and we have set up a beautiful gun grabbers segment. The goofy things they say. Take the wheel, sir.
Oh, this
because
is
your baby.
epic. So I logged on this morning to find this little gem in social media. Doc, throw this one up for us.
So good.
From Everytown, one of the biggest anti-gun groups out there. They posted this little nugget. Okay, myth: strong gun laws don't work. Look at Chicago. Fact.
Yes, let's look.
Fact. Chicago proves why we must push for strong federal gun laws. Oh my goodness. So in the first statement, the myth, strong gun laws don't work. Look at Chicago. And then they say Chicago proves why we need strong gun laws. My goodness.
Interesting.
Where do these people come from?
They come from the Twitterverse. They exist in the Twitterverse. They've only been in the Twitterverse. That's where they live, Tim. They live in the Twitterverse, and that's it.
I guess so.
That's it.
And this is
because, after all, look at Chicago.
I know.
hey, gun controllers.
This encapsulates their entire arguments. It truly does.
Gun controllers. Pro tip: don't reference Chicago. That's not your strong card. Don't go with that one.
It's a myth that strong gun laws don't work. They must, right? But they don't work in Chicago. But
they don't work there.
We need more gun laws because they're not working.
So we need them federally.
Yeah.
And of course, in all seriousness, of course, what they're aiming for here is it's okay. These laws would work perfectly in Chicago if only those pesky states around us didn't have freedom. So we need it federally. We need a federal law to support our local law, which doesn't work by itself. But then when brought together federally, it will all work magically.
Right.
I mean, that's what they're saying.
And when these stupid laws don't do anything, what are they going to do next? I mean, this is all part of their incremental plan, right? So every law they propose fails miserably. It always has. Matter of fact, if you take a look, like an overarching look over the last few decades, violent crime in the United States is trending downward. And as we've already shown in today's episode, gun ownership is skyrocketing. So if you take a look at that, if what these idiots are saying is true, then more guns should mean more chaos and crime. But the exact opposite is happening and has been for decades. More guns are in the hands of Americans and less violent crime. And it goes to a point earlier in the video today talking about how all of this is just being blown out of proportion. And so when they talk about these mass shootings, they have Americans absolutely convinced that behind every tree there's lurking AR-15, nobody pulling the trigger, mind you. It's the evil AR-15 doing all these things.
It's just there.
And it's going to jump out and get you at any moment because we are living in fear in America of walking outside and being gunned down by a mass shooter. False, because it just isn't that common as the judge noted. It just isn't. But they'll sensationalize every one that happens to scare people into voting for their totalitarianism. And that's all this is. They're trying to scare you into giving up your numbers. Rights.
I completely agree. And to give some numbers and context of what Tim's talking about, I covered this actually last night on my channel. 60 million guns were purchased during the pandemic. 60 million.
Man.
And if you look at the actual statistics from Gun Violence Archive, which is a far left progressive gun grabbing manipulation propaganda site, their numbers show a 20% decline this year in homicides and in suicides. Mm-hmm. So you tell me how that jives and checks, Tim, if the entire time you've been telling me guns are the problem and there's a direct correlation between more guns equals more crime, how then do we have more guns at a rate of 60 million and we have a decline of 20% year over year?
Right. And this is what they will never talk about. And this is why I throw in their face on X and everywhere else. I keep throwing it in their face. They have no defense to that fact. They just don't. All they can do is just keep screaming from the tops of mountains that, and screaming at the sky, we need gun control. It doesn't work, but we need more laws. Just look at Chicago.
Look at Chicago. Yeah. Look at Chicago. It's so great. It works.
It's unbelievable how these people think. But hey, that's where we are. All right, folks. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving, by the way. Had tons of food. I hope you're one of the lucky few. Well, maybe not few, maybe the majority. I don't know, that had leftovers. See, we traveled, and so we didn't get to come home with leftovers. And I'm just going nuts looking at all my friends posting all the great concoctions they're coming up with on social media with the leftovers. I want leftovers. Thanks for watching, folks. We'll talk to you guys soon.